Now, Crystal Ball and Angela Rye, thank you both for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having us, Rob.
Crystal, they choke me up when I talk about the Tea Party.
I feel you.
But try as they might, establishment Republicans can't seem to escape the Tea Party's influence, can they?
No, I mean, it's really interesting what's happening right now. And I think partly, even though there is a sense among some of the what you would call more establishment Republicans that they've got to do something, they have to change the demographic realities that they're facing, or else they are going to be like the Whig Party, as Glenn Beck put it, and totally irrelevant. They have for so long defined themselves by what they are in opposition to that they don't know what they're for anymore. Their first instinct is always just to oppose the president, oppose whatever the Democrats are saying. So things like, that they can't do anything on the environment because anything that's cap and trade is off the table. On immigration, anything that's amnesty is off the table. On tax reform, anything that raises revenue is off the table. But what's on the table? And that's the thing that they haven't figured out. What are we actually going to be for as a party?
And they're getting way out there, Angela, because today a top Tea Party group sent out a fundraising email featuring an image of Karl Rove in a Nazi uniform. I mean, we haven't seen that kind of venom other than at President Obama. So the group later apologized, saying the image was added by accident. But, I mean, they're like just coming on strong at anybody that would question their hold on where the policies and imagery of the Republican Party is going.
Sure. I think the other issue that you have are the folks who are their messengers. They think that if they just change the messenger, then the message will become more palatable.
Right.
You're seeing that with, Fox News released Sarah Palin, but they got Herman Cain. You see that with the Tea Party saying they're going to have Ted Cruz and Senator Rubio out front on immigration. But at the end of the day, it's the same old tired political policies, and nobody is for them, to Crystal's point. So at the end of the day, they really have to determine what is not only their message, but what are the policies that they represent.
Terry Branstad, the Iowa Republican governor, really told Rove's super PAC to stay out of the Senate race there. He told AP in a quote, "I basically told Karl Rove that what he was doing is counterproductive and he needs to stay out of it. If some outside group that has no connection to Iowa attacks somebody from Iowa, that is not smart." So they're getting cover even from governors. I mean, it's amazing, Chris.
Well, I love how suddenly Republicans are coming out against outside spending in their state. That it was all fine and good when it was benefiting them. And I think also Governor Branstad wants to keep that power in his hands in terms of who gets in the primary and who's successful in the primary there. But Rove's group, at least they are recognizing that there is a problem, that they need to have more mainstream and electable candidates. But let's keep in mind that the problem for the more mainstream Republican candidates is not that they don't have money. They have plenty of money. The problem is that these Tea Party Todd Akin types, Steve King types, do have money now, and that's not changing. What they need to do is, and again, Karl Rove and others were perfectly happy to ride that Tea Party wave as long as it was benefiting them. But now that that tiger has turned around and is coming back and biting them, they're trying to figure out how to move away. They have to really figure out a message, policies that make sense to people. That's the only way that the Republican Party is going to move forward.
Now, last night, Angela, on Bill O'Reilly's show, Glenn Beck, he was asked by O'Reilly who he'd support for president in 2016. I'm sure you were waiting with bated breath to find out what Glenn Beck was going to say, but let me show you.
I'd support Rand Paul. He's a Republican. All right. But he is a small government constitutional.
How about Marco Rubio?
So you know what? I haven't made my mind up on Marco Rubio yet.
So he's in consideration. You like Rand Paul. How about Christie, the Jersey guy? How about him? No go.
So Christie, who worked with the president around saving hurricane victims and devastating land in the state, no good. Rubio, with all of what he's trying to do, no good. I guess he can get some more water now. Rand Paul, fine. So these guys are not going to disappear on the far, far right Tea Party types, and Glenn Beck is one of their real heroes and spokespersons, I suppose.
Well, I don't know. I don't really care about what Glenn Beck has to say or who he's supporting, but at the end of the day, I think that the division in the party is speaking volumes to this overarching issue they have, not only with, again, messaging, but their overall policies. There's this article that talks about the Tea Party is going to go out on a bus tour.
Right.
But what are they going to tout on the bus tour? Again, the same tired policies. They're going to have a Spanish language version of their website.
Of their tired policies.
Right, of their tired policies. You're going to tell people.
Same thing they said last year, but it's in Spanish.
Well, yes.
Like that changes.
And not only that, but if you tell someone that I'm going to mess over you, your family, and your community in Spanish, it doesn't make the message any more palatable.
Right.
At some point, you've got to come up with some new options.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think Rand Paul could be a big problem for the Republican Party. Looking forward to 2016, I mean, he has already expressed it in the White House, and I think they're going to have a similar problem with him in a primary, pulling everybody to the right. He's going to have a built-in base. He is not like his dad, who's the sort of perennial candidate and not really serious. He is a bit more politically savvy and will have a bit more traction in a primary. I think he could be a real problem.
But let me say this before we run out of time. Your co-host and conservative columnist, your colleague, S.C. Cupp, says in a column today that she will not apologize for urging Republicans to call out Rush Limbaugh and his outrageous comments. She writes, quote, "Some demanded I apologize. Others implied I just committed career suicide. Others still politely suggested I committed actual suicide. I'll end the suspense for some. There will be no apology. If you think I'm going to apologize for suggesting that it might be okay to disagree with a radio host sometime, you don't know me at all."
Yeah.
That was really courageous, I think.
Very courageous of her. And I have to say, I was recalling back to when Rush Limbaugh called Sandra Fluke a slut and a prostitute, and the Republican Party was silent, and Mitt Romney said, "It's not the language I would have chosen." If only they would have at least a little bit of courage, making people feel like they stand up for just decent, respectful language, if nothing else. So I think Essie's absolutely right. They can't be afraid in rebuilding the Republican Party to take on some of these old historical party leaders who are really pulling the party out of the mainstream.
Even Joe Scarborough today in his column talked about Rush Limbaugh being 1 in 6 on the last presidential elections. Again, they can continue to have someone that is kind of the other side of media, to counter liberal media, as they put it. But at the end of the day, all of what's resonating and making them a lot of money isn't what's necessarily making sense for the country.
Well, you see where they brought the politics of this country. They have Angela on